Welcome back to part 2 of building a hot rod motor for old dude. Let me get this table cleaned off. We'll go to working on some heads. Alrighty, I got the table cleaned off, got my heads up here. All I want to do today's Saturday. You got to have a day off every once in a while, so I'm not going to work all day. But I do want to do a little something to these heads. Mainly what I want to do, let's pull the valves, look at the seats, see if they need lapping. I'll probably lap them in anyway, but I still want to look at them. Plus, we're going to have to put better springs on it for the cam that I'm getting, which I haven't, still haven't decided which one I'm going to get. And also, I'm going to pull the rocker studs out like we did on the Vortex heads, because I'm putting screw-in studs back in, because, we're going with a higher lift cam. Also, I want to check and see the max lift we can use with these heads. Got to know that for sure. So, I think I'll start with pulling the springs and getting the valves out. Here is my brand spankingly new valve spring removing tool. Let me tell you, I've used it a time or two already, and it's pretty handy. See that right there? That's all you gotta do. Now I gotta get them valve locks out. If I can find a tool, I might get me a little bitty magnet, I guess, for these. Yep, gots to have a magnet. I'll be right back. What I need to get me is one of those itty bitty screwdrivers that's got the little magnet on the end. That'd be perfect for that. All right, here we go. Kaplow! One spring removed. There he is. Anybody needed a good used set of springs? Well, I got them. Let's pull this valve out. There's the old valve seal. Get the spider eggs off of it. It ain't too bad. But I will probably, let's flip this over. I will probably go ahead and lap it back in. Oh yeah, ain't nothing wrong with that. Yes, sir. So, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pull the rest of them out. Of course, I'll keep them in order like they go, just because. Then, if I get them all out, I'll come back and we may pull the studs, and I don't know what else we'll do. We'll just do something. All right, I got the dial indicator set up, and what we're checking for is clearance between the bottom of this retainer. This is the retainer right here, the bottom of it right there. The retainer is what sits on top of your valve spring right here. I want to know the clearance from the bottom of that retainer to the top of your valve seal. Don't forget to put your valve seal on here. That's got to be on here. So, got the dial indicator up. I'm on bottom right now. We're going to push the valve up, watch the dial indicator, and see what kind of clearance we got. This valve seal wants to stick, so it's kind of hard to do it smoothly. Let's see if we can. There's 100, 200, 300, 400, and about 60. You want about 50 thousandths clearance here, and well, that leaves us 410 thousandths lift. That ain't very much. I want more than that. There's a couple things I can do. One, if you remember on the Vortex heads, I used beehive springs. That's why I had to buy different retainers, and I don't think they hung down as much, so that helps you out on clearance. Plus, I bought the offset locks. Locks are these little fellers right here. You buy them, and they'll raise everything up. I think it was 100 thousandths, if I'm not mistaken. I can do that like we did on the Vortex heads on the old Hootie 4-drive, or they got a tool that come in here and cut this valve guide boss down, lower it down, lower your valve seal down, and that will allow more clearance that way. I'm probably going to do that because I done spent too much money on this motor, and I'll have to buy valve springs, retainers, and locks if I do the other. If I just cut that valve guide boss down, all I got to do is buy the tool. Costs about the same, but I'll always have that tool, and I can do that to any head I get from now on. I ain't made up my mind for sure yet, but when I do, I will let y'all know. But right now, 410 thousandths left, that ain't enough. So what I'm gonna do next, I guess, let's pull these rocker studs out. I don't know if I'm gonna try and drill and tap them today or not. We might do one head at least. All right, if you have not seen me pull studs on a head, well, let me show you real quick. You get you some of the ball, what you may call it, pivot ball, out of the rocker arm. You just slide you 2 or 3 on there. Well, it won't go. Get you 2 or 3 of them, slide on there. Then you get you a nut, put it on there. Get your impact, run that down until it, well, it'll start pulling the stud. You run down till it, gives you enough room to put another pivot ball on there. We take your nut off, put another ball on there, and then 4, I think, should do it. Well, let me just set the camera up and I'll show you how to do it. All right, all you do is take your impact, run her down a little bit. See how I got enough room now to put another pivot ball? Well, you take your nut off. And let me get another pivot ball. Put her on there just like that right there. Get your nut, put it back on. Run her down with the impact some more. Ta-da! There it is. Right there. Now some of y'all might be wondering, well, why are you doing this? Well, if you go with much more than factory lift, these have a tendency to pull out. Some of them, they come in here with a roll pin and pin them. Well, I just soon pull them out, put screw-in studs in, and screw-in studs, well, they can handle a whole lot more lift. Let me show you one more, then I won't bore you with that. Put another pivot ball on. I'm going to put a whoosher on there too. Maybe that'll help out. Ta-da! See how my nut didn't hang up that time? Anyway, let me get the rest of these pulled out. Their nut is hot. Very, very hot. Alright, as you can see, I got all the studs out. Now what we got to do, we got to tap these holes and get these screw-in studs in there. And the way you do that is with this little apparatus right here. I bought this, I'm pretty sure, on Summit. I don't remember how much it was. But basically, what you want to do is this guide pin goes right here, just like that. Actually, I think I need to turn it over. Just like that. This side's got threads. The reason why it's got threads, that's so you can get your tap started straight and true before you hit the hole. If you try to do it by hand, you may be leaning this way and that way, or, well, you want it straight and true, and that's what this thing here does. Helps you get it started straight. Let me get my little handle on here. We'll go to tapping this little fella right here. Just like that right there. Also, and oh by the way, these holes for these studs, most of them go all the way through to either the runner, intake runner, or either intake runner or water passage, I believe is correct. Anyway, what I'm trying to tell you is they go all the way through. So when you get it done and you put the studs on, you got to put some kind of thread sealer on them threads, or you'll have a vacuum leak. You don't want that. Tell you what I'm going to do. Let's take this off now that I got a hole started. Get this apparatus out of the way, because I was about to hit my little locating pin right there. All right, I think we are, in fact, all the way through now. Yes, sir. We're plenty deep anyway. Let me back that out, and I'll show you what you do on the next one. All right, this is what you do on the next one. Well, let me say this first. Some people don't pull all the studs at one time, and you can do it either way. Some will pull every other one. Well, I mean, that's just how they do it. I pulled them all at once. Let me show you how you will do this next one. You'll go ahead, put your new stud in. You ain't got to tighten it down or nothing right now. It's just acting as a guide. Put that on there, just like that right there. Get you a nut and tighten that down a little bit. Really, you don't even have to do this. It just helps it be a little more stable. Hand tightening is good enough. Then you get your tap, run it in on this side like you did the other one, and it'll center itself up just like that right there. Put your handle on, and you go to running it down just like I did on the other one. Once you get it started, you know, I'll pull this little guide off so I can run that tap on down in there. Well, I do believe this head is pretty much done as far as the screw-in studs go. I'm not going to put them in right now because I got to clean this head up good, and I want to blow all the shavings out of it and everything, so I'll do that later. But I've got a couple of issues that I just realized. One of them, I got to look at these valve guides, and the holes, some of them look bigger than the others. Well, I got my calipers out and measured my valve stems here, and sure enough, exhaust valves are 3/8. Intake is 11/32. And, well, the 3/8, the head's been worked on because 11/32 is the stock size. So I don't know if exhaust valves, you know, the guides wore out and they just drilled them out to 3/8 and put 3/8 valves in them, or what. All I know is these heads have been worked on. And, well, that sort of throws a wrench in my plans. You know, I was going to maybe cut these valve guide bosses down to give me more room for lift. Well, I'm going to have to buy 2 cutters now, or at least 2 different arbors. Those arbors are like $50 a piece. Yes, sir. I'm not sure I want to do that. So I've got to decide what I'm going to do on that. And here's another issue. These are the stock springs. Well, if you notice, one of them is a little bit taller than the other. This one over here. That's your exhaust spring. Well, the reason why, well, you got your normal retainer like that right there. Goes on the intake. And then the exhaust, it has what they call a rotator. This thing will spin up here like this, and it lets the valve spin. It's supposed to help knock the carbon off, you know, keep it from building up on the exhaust, because that's where it's going to build up mostly. Well, like I said, they are 2 different heights. So to keep the spring pressure the same, guess what they do? They machine the valve pocket, or the spring pocket, down deeper on the exhaust than the intake. Well, you can shim them and it'll be fine, but that's just something else that I've got to buy is shims. I've got to decide. I ain't even sure I want to use these heads now, to be honest with you. I got to decide what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to go home and I'm going to get on the internet and we're going to do a little studying. And, well, I'll let y'all know tomorrow what I'm going to do with the heads. Well, it's the next day, and I'll have y'all know I picked out a cam last night. Yes, sir. It's on the way, and when it gets here, I'll tell you all about it. And I've decided what I'm going to do with these heads. Yes, we're going to use them. I've got spacers coming for the exhaust valves where they got the spring pocket cut lower than the intake. That'll raise them up where we can get the right installed height, and our seat pressure will be like it's supposed to be, close enough. It ain't got to be perfect, but it'll be close enough. Also, as far as getting the lift that I need, well, you know, for the clearance for the lift I need, what I'm going to do is, I got to thinking, why couldn't you just grind this back side of this retainer down a little bit and give you a little more clearance? Well, I got to looking online last night at aftermarket race type retainers. This one, it's 500 thousandths thick. Well, the aftermarket ones, some of them are 350 thousandths thick. Well, that told me right there, you know, it's okay to grind 150 thousandths off of them. So I thought that's what I'll do. Actually, I'm not going to grind 150 thousandths. I'm probably just going to do 75 to 100. And I've got the offset locks like we did on the Vortec heads, which will raise the retainer up 50 thousandths and give us that much more clearance between it and the valve seal. That's what we're going to do. So whilst I wait on parts for this, let's roll that feller air outside. I'm going to wire brush it, get all that loose paint off, and then we're going to clean it up real good. Guess what? I'm even going to paint this one. It'll be the first one I've painted in a long time. Well, I'm about to knock cam bearings out before I take it out there to wash it. And here's one reason why. Well, I don't know if y'all can see that very well or not. Let me get my hand down in there. See that right there? That's grit from where I was boring it. That is why you want to clean a block very, very thoroughly after you get done boring it, because it just, well, it gets everywhere. And that's why they don't put cam bearings in until after they bore it, because it can get in those little oil passages behind the cam bearings and then get through the motor and, well, liable to wipe all the bearings out. Anyway, let me get them knocked out. We'll roll it outside and start cleaning on it. All right, let's knock these cam bearings out real quick. I do know that when you install this one, you need to come from the back, but right now I'm just knocking it out, so I ain't too off worried about that. Where'd my wrench go? It's in my back pocket. That's where it's at. All right, let me whoop on it. There's one. All right, let's see if we can get this one out. There's number 2. I'll be back when I get the rest of them out. Where'd my wrench go? There it is. Well, I got the cam bearings out. Here they are right here. And you see the copper right there. They're pretty wore out. I don't normally have to change cam bearings, but these here, they was pretty bad. So anyway, now what I'm doing is getting the freeze plugs out, because they may be on the verge of rusting out. I don't know. So I'm just going to knock them out and put new ones in it. Then once I do that, we'll roll her outside and clean it up. Come out of there. One down and several more to go. Well, I got the little feller outside here fixing to clean them off. I think what I'm going to do first, this is full of purple power. Spray it on there and get all the grit and mess off of it first. And then I'm going to try some oven cleaner on this paint. See if maybe it won't strip it off. If it don't, then, well, I ain't going to worry about it too much. But anyway, let's get this thing cleaned up. There's a whole lot of grit right down in there where the cam goes. I'm not 100% positive, but I think I might need a new wire brush. What y'all think? See all that grit still in it? Got a long way to go to get this thing clean. Let's see what a little oven cleaner is going to do. That may or may not be burning my hand. I'm not sure yet. I don't know if y'all see how dirty that water is, but I tell you what, that oven cleaner does pretty doggone good. Yes, sir, it does. Got a bunch of stuff off. That may be my new engine degreaser. Let me flip it over. We'll get the lifter valley cleaned up. Then it may be time to blow it off and get the painting on it. Well, I do believe I got it clean. It's probably the cleanest I've ever had a block. Yes, sir. That oven cleaner does really good. I think that's my new engine degreaser. I don't feel no grit anywhere. What I'm going to do right now is go get me a can of carburetor cleaner. I'm going to hit all oil passages I can find, make sure they're clean and free. And then I guess after that, we'll blow it off with air. Then I'll go to painting on it. Well, I just spent a couple hours doing something that I absolutely hate and despise. Well, two things. One is cleaning. I hate it. I just hate it. It's going to get dirty again. It's going to need cleaning again. It just never stops. I hate it. 2, prepping for paint. I hate it. I'll never like it. That's why I don't paint, because I don't like prepping. Anyway, hopefully it's clean enough that the paint will stick for a little while. It'll probably need paint again in 6 months, but right now, she's going to look pretty and shiny. Let's hurry up and get this thing painted. Losing daylight. Dew's going to start falling for too long. Well, this is so thin. It'll take 5 coats to cover this up. With Artiz, it ain't pretty, but it is painted. At least it's one color. You don't pay no attention to the back side because I didn't paint it. I might paint it once we pick it up with the engine hoist, but I just didn't feel like taking it off of here right now. Let me flip her around a little bit where you can see it. It's supposed to be a low gloss. Well, she's pretty shiny right now, but I think she's still wet, especially right in there. It'll have to do because, well, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm gonna leave my tape on it to keep the dust and dirt out of it. We'll let that sit overnight. I think what we may do right now, let's pull these rods off these pistons here and put them on the new pistons. All right, we are going to press the pins out. I'm hoping I don't destroy the pistons. I would like to keep them, even though they are dished low compression. I still like to keep them. You never know. Might need them for a stock rebuild or something. But let me show y'all this first. Rods and pistons have an orientation. Most of you will know about that notch right there on the right hand side of the piston. That always goes through the front. Well, the rod goes a certain way too. Well, let me flip it up here like it's supposed to go. This is number 4. So it'll be, if you're looking at the front of the motor, it'll be on the left hand side, just like this right here. So your tangs right there for your bearings, they'll always go to the outside of the block. Same thing with the odd numbered. This is 7 right here. Well, let's flip her over like she goes. We're standing in front of the motor. Got your notch right there. See where your tangs are? They are, well, can't see them because the bearing's still in it, but they are on the outside, pointing to the outside of the block. That is how they're supposed to be orientated, and that's why you need to put them back on when you put them on the new piston. Well, let's worry about getting them out of the piston first. Let's do that one, and we'll bring it over here and heat it up and put it on the new piston. All right, let's see if we can get this little feller out of this piston. Let me get my, well, come back here. Where did you go? Oh yeah. All right, here we go. Getting this pin out of this piston. Hopefully we don't bust it, but we might. I do believe we've got it. Let me pull it out of here and look at it. Yes, sir. I don't think we hurt the piston either, so that's wonderful. All right, now that we got the rod off the piston, this is how I do it. It's just, well, that's just how my brain works. If yours works different, well, you do it different. But I'm doing the even number pistons right now, so even numbers are on the left hand side. We're looking at the front of the block. See my arrow? It's pointing to the front of the block. Well, you bring this here over here on the table, flip her on its head, and we know by the orientation of that arrow and which side it goes on, our tangs want to go to the outside of the block. See them right there? They're to the outside of the block. You flip it on its head. Which way are those tangs? They're pointing that way. That's the way I'm going to do every single one of the even ones, and then the odd ones will be, the tangs will be turned around like that. Anyway, let me get the torch clamped up in here, get it fired up. We'll heat into this rod. Let me tell you about that real quick. You don't want to get that cherry red. A very, very dull red, maybe. Just enough to get it to expand and get it through here. This is not exact either. You know, get it close as you can. Just as long as you ain't got the pin hanging out, you know, one side or the other, you'll be just fine. Anyway, let me get the torch set up. All right, here we go. Remember, tangs go that way. You gotta hold it, let it cool for a minute so you lock it in place. And there you have one. Tangs are going that way. Awesome. Well, I got one done anyway. She's still just a wee bit warm. I got it just a wee bit hot. It was a little bit red and I don't like that, but it'll probably be all right. But like I told you, it ain't gonna be perfect as long as you ain't got no pin hanging out a bunch on either side. But to check that, all you gotta do, push it to one side. See that pin's pretty flush. Push her over here. Pin's pretty flush, so that there's pretty doggone good. Well, I got 3 done. Started on number 4. Well, I run out of propane. That ain't no good. I'll have to go somewhere tomorrow and get some propane, then we'll do the other 5. And then we'll start getting this thing put back together. Hopefully, fingers crossed. So, I reckon I'll see y'all tomorrow. Well, it's the next day again, and I'll have y'all know, we ain't got to wait on no Valtrain parts. Here they are right here. Yes, sir. I'm telling you, Summit ships really fast. They come from Texas in 2 days. We may be waiting on the cam, though, because I ordered it before I ordered these. 3 days ago, Summit said it should ship from the manufacturer. And, well, I don't know. I've gotten no kind of tracking number. I may email Summit this evening and see if they can tell me if it's on the way or what. We may be waiting on the cam. I don't know. Anyway, I went and got me a new bottle of propane, and we're going to finish doing these rods. I'm getting an extremely late start today. I had other stuff to do, but hopefully this is what I'd like to get done today. Get the pistons and rods, put it back together, and gap the rings, check bearing clearances, and at least get the pistons and crank in, and maybe, you know, oil pump and oil pan on it. We'll just have to see. But I can't do nothing talking to y'all, so let me get busy doing this. Well, I'm just working away in there. Look who shows up. Miss Daisy. How you doing, girl? Doing all right? Say hello, everybody. I like that bandana. That's pretty. All right, we'll see you later. Well, it appears that I got all 8 pistons and rods married, so that's good. Like I said, I'm going to put these in a plastic bag, put them on the shelf over there, and I'm even going to save these bearings because they're brand spankingly new. There's no need throwing them away. If I ever need just a quick stock rebuild, well, guess what? I got some parts to do that. Let me move this, and that, and get that over here, and we'll go to working on some ring gaps. Well, I got everything moved out of the way. Fixing to pull this tape off this motor here, but y'all ain't gonna believe me unless I show you. Look at this right here. That paint is still wet. 24 hours later, that paint is still wet. What kind of paint is this? I put 2 light coats and a medium coat like it says. Somebody explain it to me. I don't understand that. Anyway, I just have to be careful. Try not to get it all over me. Let's pull this tape off. See what we got. See what we look like without the tape. Alright, I think that's all the tape, pretty much. So I got to clean these bores out. I reckon we'll go to setting the ring gap. Alright, let's check the ring gap. This is my top ring here. These are a plasma moly coated ring. I think that's right. Second ones are coated with something. I don't remember. They're a Hastings brand. But what you want to do, put your ring in there just like that right there. And you want to square it up in the bore of the piston. Just push it down, I don't know, an inch or so. Then grab your feeler gauge. And I didn't check this one. It's at, let's see, where is that at? There it is. It's right at 20. It's a tight 20, I think it was. I'm doing 6 thousandths per inch of bore. That's 4. So 6 times 4 is 24. 24 to 25 is the gap I'm on. So let me show you how I'm going to get that gap. Yes, this is a regular old file. I got it tightened up in the vise. I don't have a ring file, groover, filer, grinder, downer machine. What do you call it? Anyway, I don't have one. So I've got to do it by hand. So this is basically all I'm going to do. You set it down on the vise right there, and it'll help you steady it, but you just basically want to drag it across it, just like that right there. And I don't know how quickly these are going to cut, so I'm just going to do a little bit, and then we'll stick it back in the board and check it, because I only got to go, you know, 5 thousandths more. That ain't much. All right, we'll put it back in the bore and check that, see what we got. All right, let's stick her back in the bore, see what we got. Let me get my piston and shove her on down in there. What do we have? What do we have? Let me see. Let's just try 22. See if we opened it up that much. No, sir. We sure didn't. I ain't sure we opened it up at all. Let me find the 21. There it is right there. Well, I did absolutely nothing, so back over there to the file. All right, let me try this again. See if we can't take something off of it this time. It's shiny on the end, so I know I took something off, but apparently it was less than 1,000th, so. This file is really dull, which is probably a good thing. That way I won't take too much. But I would rather have a wider gap than a narrower gap. That way I ain't gotta worry about them butting together and busting the ringland though. All right, let me check that. We'll see what that did. Well, I got one done anyway. It's about 25 thousandths, as you can see right there. That's 25 thousandths filler gauge. It's a little tight, but it does go, so that's good. I had to get a different file because that other one, it was just too dull. Let me show y'all how I do one more, and then well, I got I got a lot more rings to do because I got to do the second ring too. I'll tell you what, these little fellers here, they're a little harder than I thought, but basically all y'all I'm gonna do it right there. Start getting a little shiny on the end. Then I'll do the other side a little bit. Do it a little bit more and I'll stick it in there and check it real quick. All right, I got this little fella here done. It is a loose 25, but 26 won't go in, so I think we're good. Now what you got to do is, I got me a stone right here. Let me show you. There's my stone. What I gotta do is take it and go around all these edges, knock down any burrs that we got, and then that'll be done. And I only got, well, 16 minus 2, I only got 14 more to go. Ring gaps, they are set. Top and second ring gap are set at 25, 26 thousandths. It's 1,000th or so over what I wanted, but it'll be just fine and dandly. It appears that's all I'm gonna get done tonight because, well, I made the mistake of going across the road over to my lovely assistant's. Well, we got to talking and then worked on his son's four-wheeler for a little bit, and time flies when you're having fun. So blame him for me being lazy and not getting much done today. Tomorrow, we're going to do bearing clearances, get the crank and rods and pistons in, work on the heads, hopefully get them put together, but get them put on maybe. Then we'll be waiting on a cam. Well, I'm getting a very late start again today. That seems to be a recurring theme here lately. But when you're a one-man operation and you got to do it all, well, that's just how it goes sometimes. Sometimes housely duties come first, and seems I've had a lot of them here lately that's interfering with my work here. But anyway, we'll get it done. To be honest, I'm not in a real big hurry to get it together because we're going to be waiting on the cam. Matter of fact, I emailed Summit yesterday to check on the cam. They emailed me back this morning and said, well, we don't know. We ain't heard nothing from the manufacturer. They said they'll let me know when they're here. Well, I got another email a couple hours later and said the cam will ship from the manufacturer 11 days from now. Well, that ain't going to work. So I canceled that order. So I reckon tonight I'm going to spend another 2 or 3 hours, possibly more, searching for the cam I need and then making sure it's actually in stock. I've got a cam we can use. I don't really want to though because, well, I want a little more duration than what it's got, and lobe separation angle, I'd like for it to be a little wider since it's going to be a supercharged motor. Well, I'll just tell you, that cam, the one I got, I had intended on putting it in the old hoopty foil drive. Last time I worked on it, remember, we was having trouble with it not running right well. I finally straightened all that out. It's running better. So I didn't put it in. So we got that if I have to use it, but I don't want to. So maybe tonight I'll be able to find one a little better suited for a supercharged motor. Anyway, right now, let's flip this sucker on its head. We're going to put some cam bearings in it. Then maybe I got to check bearing clearances. Then maybe we can get the crank pistons in. And then we got to go working on the heads too. So let's get busy and see if we can get something done tonight. All right, here are my cam bearings. I'm using King cam bearings. These, they go in a certain hole. The IDs are the same. The ODs are different. Don't ask me why, because I can't remember. Y'all know I got the memory of a tree stump. If you want to know, well, you'll just have to look it up. I might look it up later just so I'll know, because I can't remember. Anyway, in this box or on this box, you should have something that looks like that right there. These numbers on the left will be stamped on the outside of your bearings. Well, let's pick up this one right here. It says CH4-3. I don't know if y'all can see that or not. Probably not. But it says CH4-3. We come right here, CH4-3. That can go in position 3 or 4. Well, let's put it here in about 3. All right, you pick up this one right here, and it says CH4-3. That can be position 3 or 4. So they'll go right there. That's 3, that's 4. Well, let's pick up this one right here. I automatically know where this one goes because it has 2 oil holes. That'll be your front bearing. It's CH4-1. What does that say right there? Position 1. So we'll put it right there. And so on and so forth. I ain't going to go through all of them. But you get the idea. Those go in a certain spot, and you got to have where they go. You go by this right here. Now, well, the car community, they can get a little crazy sometimes. They go overboard on a lot of this stuff. And there's debate on where the oil hole goes. See that hole right there? That's where your oil comes through. And some say, put it at 2 o'clock. Some say, no, here. Some say, oh, here. And well, the factory, if I ain't mistaken, they don't care. They just put it wherever. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what everybody else does. Most people, anyway, put it at 2 o'clock. Just like that right there. That's with the motor upright. Well, you put cam bearings in with it on its head turned upside down. So what do you have to do there? You put that oil hole at 2 o'clock. Well, then where is it going to be when it's flipped on its head? It's going to be down here at 8 o'clock. So that's what you do. You flip it around at 8 o'clock. That's where my fingers are, is that hole. Then what you do, well, you can lay it on the table if you want to. But I put me a mark at 12 o'clock. And you see that mark right there, that'll be at 12 o'clock. You stick it in there just like that. It ain't got to be exact, I'm telling you. The people, they just go overboard on cam bearings. I don't know why. Anyway, you might see an X there. Well, what is that X for? Well, let me explain that. Let's say this is number 2. I pick it up. Well, then I lay it down, but I lay it down like that. Well, if I don't have that X on there, I just got that line. Well, if I install it like that, look where my hole is. It's over here at, 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, somewhere in there. That X is to tell me which side that hole is on. And I know that X needs to be over here on the left because that's where 8 o'clock is. That's all that's for. Anyway, that's how you do that. Just be sure you get them in the right hole. Now let me show you the tool that you use to put them in with. Wait a minute. I forgot one thing. Remember how I said the number 1 bearing will have 2 holes. There's one there and there's one there. Well, with it on its head, they will go in the 4 o'clock and the 8 o'clock position, just like that. You don't need an X. All you need is that line because, it don't matter if you flip this one around. But, yes, they go in 8 o'clock and 4 o'clock position. You got several adapters here for different size bearings. And then here is the main thing that you use. You put your adapter on here, then you put your bearing over that, and then you tighten it up with this nut, and this expands. It just tightens up on the bearing is all it does, keep it in place. Well, then this little cone here, you'll drive it in that first hole, and it helps it keep it lined up where you don't drive it cockeyed. Well, then you go to whooping on it with a big old hammer on this end here. that's pretty much it. You just have to pay attention to where it's at, and you know, don't drive it too far or not far enough, then your oil hole won't be exposed and that bearing will get old. I'll show you more about that when we get them in. So let's get over there and get this done. All right, I've already done number 5. It's a little aggravating. Anyway, we're gonna do number 4 here now. See my line, see where my X is over here where 8 o'clock should be. And I got my little driver tool down in here. This is how I do it. If you do it different, awesome. You got to turn it sideways, get it down in the hole. Then you got to get it up on your tool there. Once you get it on it a little bit, well, I just use the driver in the hole to push it on up on it just like that right there. And then I'll pull her back and let me get my wrench. Where did my wrench go? Here it is. I'll put the wrench on her, tighten it up a little bit. Just like that right there. And then I gotta find my hammer. Alright, now what you do is you get her on up there. You can see my mark. Hopefully you can see my mark anyway. I might zoom in on that and see my X. It's on the left hand side if you're looking at the front of the block. Well, then this cone, y'all can't see it right now, but I'll show you in a minute. You push it on up in that number 1 hole. Get your mark there lined up. You just go to whooping on it. Now, I can't really tell where it's at. I got an idea that it's pretty close, but what I got to do with this installer, I'm gonna have to loosen it up and pull it back and just see where I'm at. Just like that right there. And I believe, I need to go just a little more. It needs to be centered, you know, on that hole. I need to go just a little bit more. And then I'll show you a trick that you can double check and tell if it's right or not. All you do is get your installer, get her back on there. Tighten her up again. You can barely see some of the bearing, so I just like to double check. Probably why it takes me so long to do stuff. Anyway, I ain't got to go very far, so I ain't gonna peck on it very hard either. I'm gonna check it right there. Let's see what she looks like. All right, that looks pretty well centered up. So let me show you, let me get this pulled back out of the way, and I'll show you a little trick you can do. All right, let me show you this little trick. Here is a journal without a bearing. There's your oil hole coming from your oil galley up top. And then that groove right there is where the oil comes around it and comes to your mains right here. What you want to do, that oil hole in that bearing lines up with this groove right here. Well, you just come over here and get you a 90-degree pick like this right here. You can use an Allen wrench, piece of wire bent, it don't matter. Stick it in that hole, and you can tell if you're lined up with that groove or not. That one there is. Plus, you can see right there where my pick is, and then you come over here and look at that side. Well, you can't really see it. Let me turn some light on. There we go. You want it pretty well centered on that journal, but the main thing, make sure that oil hole is lined up with that groove right there. That way oil can come through it. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Now let me show you on this cone right here. All you want to do is hold it right there while you're whooping on it. I'll show you, let me do another and I'll show you this end of it this time. All right, I'm ready to put number 3 in. I got my line on 12 o'clock, X is on the left hand side. All you do, keep that shoved in that front hole. All that's doing is just keeping you straight where you don't drive that bearing in there cockeyed. So you gotta keep pressure on it the whole time, just like that, and just go whooping on it. I'm gonna call her good there. Let me take it apart and look at it. I went a touch too far because it ain't exactly centered, but it ain't hanging over the edge. I think I'm gonna leave it right where it's at. Well, you might be asking yourself, how do you get that front bearing in and still use this cone? Well, you drive it in from the back. That's why the block's laying in the floor and not on the engine stand. So I can get to this back side here, get this driver in there. All you do is drive her in just like you do the others. I think that's pretty much it. I gotta get a flashlight, look at that, but that's how you get the front one and still be able to use that cone. Well, alrighty, now we got cam bearings in, and hopefully, if you didn't know how to do that, well, maybe you do now. Let me tell you this too, you'll probably have little bitty pieces of shaving metal that come off the back side of the bearing when you're driving it in. Well, blow it out, wipe it out, do whatever. Just know that there might be some in there and you need to get it out. Also, was it number 3 or number 4 bearing I went a little too far? Anyway, whichever one it was, I drove it back just a little because, well, that was getting on my nerves. So it's centered now. I think what we're going to do now is, I done got the main bore, what do you call these, registers, whatever. We're going to put the bearings in there and check the clearance. Is what we're fixing to do. So let me get the bearings in here, and then the caps, I got to clean the caps up too. They're dirty. Clean them up, then we'll get the bearings in, get my dial bore gauge out, and we'll check some clearances on the main bearings. All right, I'm putting the final torque lorcas on these main cap bolts. I go 35, 55, 70. Once I do that, we'll get the dial bore gauge out, get it set, and we'll see what kind of clearances we got. What's your clearance, Clarence? I've done checked these 3. I had to get them out of the way so I could get my dial bore gauge in here to these 2 right here. Well, we got about 3.5 thousandths clearance on every one of them. Standard is 1,000th clearance per inch of diameter. Well, this is basically 2.5 inches in diameter, so you want 2.5 thousandths clearance. Let me say this first. Well, I've told y'all before, I'm a mechanic. I'm an engine rebuilder. I don't have enough experience on the hot rod horsepower side to know if that's okay or not. If this was just a standard rebuild, it wouldn't bother me. I'd put thicker oil in it and run it all day long. But this here, we're going to beat on this. And I wasn't sure if 3.5 thousandths was too much or not. Well, I decided to talk to our local machine shop. They ain't no telling how many motors that man's built in the thousands. I'm sure a lot of hot rod horsepower motors. And anyway, he said he would be okay with 3.5 thousandths clearance. I told him, you know, what we're doing with it. So if he's okay with it, well, guess what? I am too. And I've done checked my mic probably 10 times. I checked the dial bore gauge 20. There ain't nothing funny going on there. And what's odd, that crank, you know, remember we measured it, all but the rear journal was pretty much dead on stock. It was, you know, about 2/10 under. And these bearings are supposed to be standard bearings, so they're about 1,000th off, I'd say, maybe a little more than that. So I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, I'm good with it if he is. So I done got my crank cleaned up over here, got all the oil patches blowed out. What we're going to do is get these 2 caps off, grease the bearings, put the crank in, get that tightened down. And then I guess I'll come over here and we'll check clearances on all these rods. Remember, they were about 2 thousandths under. Well, it's the same brand bearing as these. So I bought 2 thousandths under bearings. I guess we're going to find out if they're actually 2 thousandths or not. Anyway, let me get all this stuff done. All right, I'm lubing up these bearings before we get that crank in here. I'm trying not to use too much, and here's why. I may have to quit using this. This is what I use. The last motor we put together, that Motorhome 350, the one we ran on the motor stand, I pulled the valve cover off that motor, and it was white like water had been getting in the oil. Well, when I pulled the distributor out, same thing. It had white all over the distributor shaft like water was getting in the oil. Well, I drained the oil. Guess what? It looked like chocolate milk. I'm hoping that it's just this lube mixing with the oil. As you can see, maybe right there, it's pretty white. You mix that with oil and, you know, it'll probably change it to a chocolate milk color. If this one does the same thing, well, I may be done with this just for peace of mind So I ain't thinking I got a blown head gasket anymore. Anyway, let's get this crank in here. All right, let's get this big heavy son of a gun on down in here. Oh, my finger. You know, I really hope I don't forget the oil pump on this one here. These are already punch marked, but if you don't know, there's an arrow right here. That arrow always points to the front. In case you didn't know, these caps, they got to get down in here in these little registers. Oh, it'll take you a little hammer. You ain't got to beat the devil out of it. Just pick it just like that right there. Get it down in that register. And that's all you got to do. All right, I'm just rechecking the last pass at 70 feetage pounds. That's what I tighten these to. I usually go like 35, 55, and then 70. I'm just rechecking them. Once I get this done, well, I reckon we'll get the rods out, get them in the vise, get the bearings put in them, and we'll check clearances on them. Well, I don't know if y'all caught that on that last clip or not, but she ain't wanting to rotate very freely. Yeah, it wants to hang up about right there. It ain't real smoothly at all. Well, I got my screwdriver out, moving it back and forth, see what kind of end play we got on our thrust bearing. It wasn't moving. Well, I got my dial indicator out, and well, let me get the screwdriver and I'll show you. All right, I got it pushed all the way one way, and as you can see, we're on 0 on the dial indicator. I'm gonna push it the other way with the screwdriver. That's all she's got, fellers. What is that? Maybe 2 thousandths, a thousandth and a half. Yes, sir, that ain't gonna work. We got something going on with this thrust bearing. Let me pull this cap back off, see if it frees up. I don't know. It's just, have I ever told y'all about MLS? Well, I got the rear main cap off, and it's turning a lot better. It ain't trying to lock up now. So that tells me, it's an issue with that thrust bearing. And also, let me find my screwdriver. I done checked the end play here. And, well, let me push it this way. We're pretty much on 0. Well, maybe 1. Go back the other way. And I'm pushing pretty hard. We're getting, what, 6, 5, 6, somewhere in there. So about 7 thousandths clearance. That's not enough. Well, let me show you the thrust bearing here too. See that area right there where my fingernail is? That's where it's been rubbing. Same thing over here. These bearings, well, right here, here's the box. These bearings, ever since I opened this box, they ain't been nothing but trouble. You know what I'm gonna do with them? That right there in the trash, I'm gonna pull them out of this motor. I'm gonna get on O'Reilly's and see if I can find a different brand. Hopefully get them ordered, get them tomorrow. What I'm gonna do now, cause my rod bearings, they're the same brand. They liable to be crazy like them. I'm gonna check a few rods, see what the clearance looks like. If it's not right, they're gonna go in the trash too. Yes, sir, they sure are. I'm telling you, MLS, it never rests. All right, let me show you all the clearances on these rods right here. I'll zoom in on that where you can see it, but 2 1/4 thousandths. That's pretty much perfect. Like I said, thousandth per inch of diameter. These are 2.1, well, they're 2.098, but just say 2.1. So that'd be 2.1 thousandths. Well, we got 2 1/4, close enough for me. This is the third one I've checked too, and they're all dead nuts on 2 1/4. So I do believe we got rod bearings. But let me show you what I completely forgot on the main bearings. See these bearings sitting right here? Well, I completely forgot that this motor had brand new bearings in it when we tore it apart. So these mains tomorrow, we'll put them in over there. Check clearances, check our end play. Hopefully, fingers crossed, that everything will be okay. I'm hoping this will tighten up, from that 3 1/2 thousandths. Anyway, it's late. My back is killing me. Just standing up on this concrete, man, it kills me. I think I might finish these up, checking the clearance, then I'm gonna go home. And tomorrow, well, we'll hit it again. All rod bearings, they are checked. They were all 2 1/4, except for number 1 here. he was about 1.5 thousandths. Well, I broke out the old steely wool here, polished her up a little bit, got it to 2 thousandths, so they're all good now. Tell you this, let me give you a little tech tip here. A couple of times here, you know, I put them in the vise, got my dial bore gauge, stuck it in there, and it's like 7 thousandths. I was like, well, what in the devil is going on? Well, I forgot to torque them down. So don't forget to torque your rod bolts down before you put your dial bore gauge in there. Anyway, I'm going home. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Well, I'm back for round 2 with these main bearings here. I done got them in, got it torqued down, got them measured, and guess what? 2.5 thousandths clearance on each one, except for the back one. It's going to be a little under 3.5, but I'm okay with that. As long as this thrust bearing acts right, well, we'll be good there. Let me show you something else too. Y'all didn't think I was really going to throw them bearings away, did you? You know I don't throw stuff away. I put them in this box, and it says, let me get it out of the light, 1 thousandths too big for standard 350 mains. Thrust needs work. We will use them on something that needs to be 1 thousandth bigger, or just put them on the stock rebuild. Like I said, I wouldn't mind that at all. Have to work on the thrust for sure. Anyway, they're gonna get put on the shelf over there. They'll be just fine and dandly. I reckon we'll go ahead. I got my crank, it's over. I got it cleaned up. We'll go ahead and put it in, get these lubed up, put it in. But I'll tell you, I ain't sure how much I'm gonna get done today. I don't feel all that good. I hope I ain't coming down with something. But it could be that I didn't get in the bed till about 5 o'clock this morning. Yes, sir. That's how much stuff I have to do once I quit working at night. If it seems like I don't get much done on the project during the day, well, there's a reason why. It's because I've got a ton of other stuff that sometimes don't even have nothing to do with the channel that I have to do every single day because I'm a one-man show. Don't mind it, love it. I love doing the YouTube stuff. Anyway, let's get this crank in and get the pistons in. Well, the crank-a-lanka is back in. She spins pretty freely now, as you can see. I did have a little issue with the end play again when we had like maybe 2. Well, let me tell you this first. You know, last night after I took this cap off, we had about 6 or 7 thousandths, and I said that wasn't enough end play. Well, I was wrong. For some reason, I had it in my head that we needed 10, 15. No, it's, I don't know, like 3 to 10 thousandths is what you need. Well, when I put it back together now, I only had about 2, which, you know, I did grease both sides of the thrust bearing up, so that's going to take up some, but I wasn't happy with it, so I loosened this cap up and I did what you call setting the thrust bearing. What you do is you tighten this one just a little bit. You come up here with a dead blow or a regular hammer and a piece of wood or whatever, you whack it that way. You come back here, you whack it that way, and it seats that thrust bearing. And I had to do that. Now we got about 4-ish, 5-ish, somewhere in there, so that's plenty good. What we're gonna do now, we're gonna flip this feller back up. I'm gonna go to putting the pistons in it. I already got the block flipped over, getting ready to put the pistons in. I just want to show y'all real quick on ring gap, orientation, clocking, whatever you want to call it. My oil gap, I think it's over here. These rings said, you know, you got your little rail. Let me show you. Got your little rail right there. And then you got a ring on top and bottom of it. Well, they said put one gap on 1 inch to one side and put the other 1 inch to the other side. And then, well, let me just show you where is the ring gap. On the Earl ring. Well, I don't see it. I need my glasses. Oh, it's over here, right there. Right there. I was right. It's on the left-hand side looking at it. This is number 1 piston, by the way. Oil ring gap here. Second ring gap here. Top ring gap, as you can see, is on the top right here. Sometimes you can do it over here and here, and it don't really matter as long as they're not directly over each other to let gases just go right through. This is what you call a ring squeezer. It goes over the piston. Tighten this little thing down. Squeezes the rings where you can get it in the cylinder. Let me get the camera set up and I'll show y'all putting a couple of them in. Where is my hammer? I need my hammer. All right, here we go. Let me show you how to put one piston in the cylinder. This is number 1. Like I told y'all before, on the piston somewhere, there'll be a dot, a notch, an arrow. That always goes to the front of the block. This one has an arrow right there. So you put it towards front. Cylinder uno, like I said. you want to make sure you wipe your cylinders out good and then coat them with motor oil. I usually just pour a little bit here and then just take my hand and wipe it all the way around. Make sure you don't forget to lube your bearings up. Don't forget your rubber hose so you don't mark your crank up. I gotta get that crank turned a little bit. We'll try her right there for now. Anyway, you stick her on down in there. Actually, let's turn this on down here. Stick your piston in there. Make sure your arrow going out of the way. Get you some type of hammer. Use that handle to take it on down in there. Just like that right there. And you come over here and you grab your hose that you put on your rod bolt, guide it over that crankshaft. Push your bottoms out just like that right there. And that's pretty much how you install a piston. Once you do that, pull your hoses off just like that. And remember, this goes a certain way. You got a tang right there. Tang always points towards the outside of the block. Make dang sure. And, well, I can show you this too, I guess. On the driver's side of the block, the chamfer, you got a chamfer here, this and here, this side you don't. That's because the crank has got a chamfer, well, not a chamfer, it's got a radius, I guess what you call it, yep. So that chamfer has to go with that radius. It'll be on either side of the rod journal. If you got it turned around that way, you ain't gonna have a good time. Make sure you get those oriented just like they go. I'm not gonna torque these down until I get them all in. Then we'll flip it on its head and go ahead and torque it down. But I'm gonna run these down snug. I will do that. I like to take a hammer, just peck that cap till it seats. Then I'll take my little gun, just snug it up, that's all you gotta do. That's pretty much it. I got 7 more to go. I'll be back when I'm done. All right, got them in on one side here, and I wanted to clarify something I said a minute ago about the chamfer on this cap. Let me just show you real quick. You can see, well, look at this side first. Right there at the end of the bearing, the edge of the bearing, there's no chamfer. Well, you look over here where the end of my thumb is, you can see a chamfer. The reason that is, well, let me show you on the crank. The crank journal on the rods, well, the mains too, has got a small radius right there on the edge where my finger is on both sides. If you put the flat side of that rod to that, well, you ain't gonna have a good time. It's gonna be bad. And let me tell you this too. Well, let me show you. On any V8, these cylinders are shifted that away compared to these. So these, the driver's side, you know, it's shifted that away. The rods will go on that side of the journals. Therefore, the radius on those caps and rods go on that side. On the passenger side, as you can see, they're shifted that way. So they will go on the back side of the journals, and the radius of those will go on that side. That's why you got to get that straightened out. Make sure you're getting them in right, because you'll wear it out pretty quick if you don't. Anyway, I just wanted to clarify that. Rod voltages, torque to 45 feet-pounds. Been putting an oil pump on here for the last few minutes. This is it a M55 melting, standard volume, standard pressure. This is the old pickup out of the old pump. You just knock her out that way and get you a piece of wood put here, whoop on it with a hammer, knock it back in. I like 3/8 clearance from this point here to the bottom of the Earl pan. That's how you measure it right here. Get you a straight edge like this. Measure down to the bottom, subtract 3/8 of an inch. Come over here, put it right here. You measure from the bottom side of this to your gasket. Be sure you include that gasket. This is set at 7 inches. That's 3/8 clearance. That's plenty. Also, put 2 tacks on this pickup to the oil pump body. because you don't want that thing moving around, because it can move around. It can fall out. I think what I'm going to do is the spring right in here, that's your pressure relief basically. When it gets to a certain pressure, it starts relieving. Well, you can get different springs for that. Just take these 4 bolts off and take that off. Knock this roll pin out. See that roll pin right there? Knock it out, get the spring out, put another spring in, put the roll pin back in, bolt it up. Normally, used to anyway, guys, hopped up a motor, they'd put a white spring in here. I'm gonna do a little studying on this. I might up the spring, up the pressure a little bit. I ain't decided yet. Forgot to get a rear main seal, so I can't put the Earl pan, excuse me, can't put that on. So we're done with this pretty much for right now. I got to get freeze plugs too. Forgot about that. I think what I'm gonna do, this is Saturday, and it's about 7 o'clock, and I'm tired. I'm just tired of working. I'm gonna get them heads right over yonder, put them on the table, and just look at them a little bit, and I'm probably gonna say phooey on it, and I'm gonna go home. We should be able to finish them and get them on the motor Monday. That's the plan anyway, and then we'll be waiting on the cam. As I gaze upon these heads, I realize I've took a trip down Dumas Lane once again. I've took a semi down Dumas Lane, which is a one-way street, going the wrong way, wide open. I guess in the hustle and bustle of everything, I just didn't pay attention to what size these valves are. Guess what? They are the small 1.72 inch intake valves. Yeah, I'm not sure that I want to use these. The parts I bought, I can use eventually if we don't use them now, so that ain't no big deal. But if I don't use these, I got to come up with a set of heads. Well, let me tell you this. 2 weeks ago, I found a set of 882 heads on Facebook Marketplace. Went and got them. Well, once again, took a trip down Dumas Lane. I didn't pay that much attention to the valves or the chambers or anything else. It looked like they had sat outside for a little bit, got rained in. The valves are looking pretty bad. It'll need new valves. Probably valve job, so I don't really want to use them. Let me do some thinking over the weekend. I'll figure something out. Speaking of Dumas, let me show you this right here. I got this in the mail the other day from Tommy in Byers, Texas. It's a keychain, it's a bear. It says Dumas, Texas on it. You can imagine which vehicle the keys will go on this. It will be Dumas, the Ford F-100. Appreciate that, Tommy from Byers, Texas. Just to let y'all know, if you do want to send me stuff like this, I usually put my P.O. Box address in the description of each video. You can go to the About section on my YouTube page also. The address will be there too. Well, yesterday was Sunday. Sunday's a day of rest, but I did do just a little bit of thinking on what we're going to do for heads. And here's what we're going to do. These 624s, we're going to put them back together. We're going to set them in the floor over there, and they'll be used on something eventually, I guarantee you that. What we are going to use on this motor, here's the 882s that I told you I bought off of Facebook. They're a little rough, I ain't kidding you. But that's the ones we're going to use. I believe they'll be just fine once we go through them. Also, know, by the way, I do believe I found a camshaft. Oh, yeah. But you'll just have to wait until part 3 to hear about that. Anyway, appreciate y'all watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you don't mind, hit the like, comment, subscribe. Share it with your friends. And until next time, go do something. Blurb, blurb.